Hey friends, it's your buddy back again with another exciting fanfic. What if Naruto started loving Ino in the Chunin exams? Part 2. If you enjoy this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more fanfics like this. Now, let's dive right into the fanfic. The Hyuga plot. The night before, Tsunade headed to the Hyuga compound and requested an audience with clan head Hiashi. She had a feeling she would be turned away because of her connection with Naruto and because the whole Hyuga clan was likely now aware she was helping protect Hanabi. Nevertheless, she'd been let in and was now in a room waiting for Hiashi. A nearby door opened, Hiashi entered and sat opposite Tsunade. "Lord Hiashi, thank you for seeing me on such short notice," said Tsunade. "Not at all, it's an honor to have the 5th Hokage visit my home," stated Hiashi. "Really? Because I think we both know why I'm here," stated Tsunade. "Indeed," sighed Hiashi. "I'm aware you spent today helping defend my daughter from the clan. A smart move, you're one of the few ninja that even the strongest Hyuga wouldn't dare challenge. If you know that, then why did you allow this visit?" asked Tsunade. "I was hoping you could give me an update on my daughters," answered Hiashi. "Are they okay? If you want to know, you should visit them yourself," stated Tsunade angrily. "I can't," was all Hiashi could say. "I don't believe that, as clan head, you should have done more," argued Tsunade. "We both know I couldn't," countered Hiashi. "I might be the head of the Hyuga clan, but at the end of the day, all that means is that I'm a public representative for the clan. I must make the decisions that will keep peace within the clan, even if that means I don't agree with them. My position isn't that different from the Hokage. I may be the leader of a group, but I'm not a tyrant. I must do what is decided upon by the majority of the clan. So, the majority of the clan feels it's okay to take your daughter away from the man she loves, raise her unborn child as a servant who will never meet their father, and brand her with the cage bird seal if she refuses," asked Tsunade. "That is the clan way. We pride ourselves on tradition, and to have an illegitimate child as heir would be disgraceful," answered Hiashi. "Speaking of which, as the Hokage, you shouldn't be interfering with clan business. Former Hokage, I may always hold the title of the 5th, but I am no longer Hokage. My current actions are for personal reasons," countered Tsunade. "Then why is Lord 6th interfering with Hyuga clan business?" demanded Hiashi. "Because there is a loophole in this. As Naruto is the child's father, it could be argued jurisdiction lies in his name and not the Hyuga," stated Tsunade. "Yes, but Hanabi is still a Hyuga, meaning she has to face the consequences of the clan," countered Hiashi. "Perhaps, but she has made the decision to change her name, so regardless of clan traditions, as soon as her name is changed, her future will no longer be dictated by the Hyuga clan," argued Tsunade. "But as of right now, she is still a Hyuga, meaning Lord 6th has no right to interfere," countered Hiashi. "Lord 6th is only helping in the areas he's allowed to. He's not helping directly in the protection of Hanabi. Furthermore, he is not forcing any other shinobi to act as security, only those willing to protect Hanabi are doing so. All Lord 6th is doing is helping with the process of changing Hanabi's name. As far as the laws of the village is concerned, he isn't overstepping any boundaries," stated Tsunade. Hiashi looked defeated in this argument. "You're right, everything they are doing is within the Leaf Village Code. But that doesn't change the fact that until Hanabi's name is changed, the Hyuga clan is free to do everything they can to bring her home," stated Hiashi. "Correct. But with both Naruto and I acting as security, they'd be fools to attack their home," countered Tsunade. "That we can agree on," stated Hiashi. While Tsunade knew he would never admit it, she could tell Hiashi was sad about all this. "I know you currently wish for me to leave, but before I do, may I ask you a few questions?" asked Tsunade. "I will answer any questions you have, because I know this is a pointless fight," stated Hiashi. "Why are the Hyuga clan so insistent that Hanabi and her child return? They didn't object to Hinata's marriage to Naruto. Even with Naruto being the hero of the village, wouldn't it normally be considered taboo for a potential heir to marry outside the clan?" asked Tsunade. "That would be the case if she were the only heir," answered Hiashi. "As you know, Hinata was already once removed as clan heir. While in recent years she has proven herself more capable of being heir, the clan decided she was fine to marry Naruto, provided she relinquished her rights. We were all aware Hinata had made her choice. She knew the consequences and accepted them. The Hyuga clan also accepted this, because if we had Hanabi as heir our traditions could continue. But now that's not possible. Asked Tsunade. No, now that Hanabi has decided to join this polygamous relationship, with Naruto and Hinata, we have lost another heir, stated Hiashi. This could have been fixed if it had ended early on, but now that she is carrying Naruto's child, she can no longer be heir. If you needed her to be heir so badly, why did you let her move out and move in with Naruto and Hinata? Asked Tsunade. Because I did see benefit to her leaving home and finding more independence. I believed she was only living with Naruto and Hinata until she could find a place of her own. Considering she never left, I probably should have suspected that something was amiss, stated Hiashi. Perhaps, but from what I can tell this was a big shock to everyone, added Tsunade. What will you do if Hanabi is successful in changing her name? I'm not sure yet. All I know is I'll be required to find a new heir, stated Hiashi. And I probably won't be allowed to pick the heir, they'll likely be chosen by the clan elders. This led Tsunade to her next question. Does the entire Hyuga clan truly want Hanabi brought back and branded? Hiashi hesitated with this question. Would they be doing what they are if they didn't? That's what makes me suspicious, stated Tsunade. You claim this was a decision made by the entire clan and yet I saw very few of them lurking by Naruto's home. If the whole Hyuga clan was for this, there would be a lot more involved. What's really going on? That's private clan business, sighed Hiashi. Like I said, I'm no longer Hokage, the consequences of me interfering aren't as great as they used to be, countered Tsunade. Hiashi decided it might just be easier to tell Tsunade everything. I wasn't entirely honest with Naruto and my daughters, confessed Hiashi. And you were right, this isn't what the whole clan wants. While most of the elders are demanding for Hanabi's return, much of the branch family is refusing to help. While we have control over them with the cage bird seal, most are resisting as much as they can. Only a few are actively trying to attack Naruto's home. Does this have anything to do with the friendship they had with Neji? Asked Tsunade. It's definitely a factor, but I think many of them are just happy Hanabi found a way to escape, sighed Hiashi. Can't say I blame them. You said you weren't honest with Naruto and your daughters. What didn't you tell them? Asked Tsunade. Do you really want to know? Asked Hiashi. Tsunade nodded. Very well. Truth is, I only told them what I did to push them away. I knew telling them that Hanabi's child would face the same fate as Neji would be all Hanabi needed to leave. I felt telling them the truth would hurt them too much, stated Hiashi. I've caused my daughters enough pain, I won't cause any more. Why? What could hurt them so much that you felt the need to lie? Asked Tsunade. I was being truthful when I said, the elders wish to brand Hanabi and put her in the branch family. What I didn't tell them were the plans the clan have for her child, answered Hiashi. They want me to make the child the next heir. And they want Hanabi to have nothing to do with raising the child. But you said it's a disgrace to have an illegitimate child as heir, stated Tsunade. Furthermore, the child will only be half Hyuga, wouldn't that mean making them heir would be more taboo? In most cases yes, but considering the possibilities of the combined genetics, they've made an alternative decision, answered Hiashi. Combined genetics? Asked Tsunade. The Uzumaki clan are well known for their stamina and high levels of chakra. Explained Hiashi. I'm aware of the abilities of the Uzumaki clan, I'm also descended from them, stated Tsunade. Then imagine what could be achieved, if you combined their abilities, with the strength and techniques of the Hyuga clan, stated Hiashi. It was all becoming clear to Tsunade. So, what you're saying is, that's right, the Hyuga clan wants Hanabi's child because of the possibilities of an Uzumaki-Hyuga hybrid, Hiashi confirmed. Is that all they see the child as? A tool for them to use to increase their strength? Asked Tsunade. That's right, and they want to make sure the child is raised in our ways and traditions, answered Hiashi. That's disgusting, spat Tsunade. I know, which is why I only told Hanabi enough to push her away. I don't even want to know how she'd react to this. I think she could live with being banished to the branch house, but to have her child taken away from her and be raised by others would destroy her, sighed Hiashi. Why haven't they tried something like this with Hinata's son? Boruto is also an Uzumaki, Hyuga hybrid, stated Tsunade. As Hinata has relinquished her rights as a Hyuga and become an Uzumaki, this extends to her son. Explained Hiashi. Boruto is an Uzumaki, meaning the clan has no say in how he is raised. It also doesn't help that by inheriting his father's eyes, the chances of him having the Byakugan are low. Hanabi on the other hand is still a Hyuga, which could extend to her child. So as long as there's a possibility that the child could be a Hyuga, the elders feel they have the right to take it. Asked Tsunade. Yes, confirmed Hiashi. What about the fact that Hanabi's child could also inherit Naruto's eyes? Asked Tsunade. They've decided to worry about that later. And even if Hanabi's child is born with Naruto's eyes, that doesn't mean they won't necessarily inherit the Byakugan, answered Hiashi. This is the desire of the clan, and I fear there's nothing I can do to change their minds. But you don't want this? Asked Tsunade. No, I don't, which is why I'm taking no part in the attempts to bring Hanabi back, answered Hiashi. How do the elders feel about this? Asked Tsunade. They're not happy, but they know there's nothing they can do, answered Hiashi. Why did you make this decision? At one point you would have forced your children home without hesitation, argued Tsunade. I had my reasons, countered Hiashi, getting angry. Which are? Asked Tsunade. I was a bad father, growled Hiashi before calming down. I was a bad father. No argument here, laughed Tsunade. That still doesn't explain why you decided to support them now. When you're born into the Hyuga clan, you're born without a choice in your path, stated Hiashi. You're either born in the main house, or the branch family, and your fate is decided from there. Or so I thought. Neji proved this wrong, by being the true prodigy of the Hyuga clan. Hinata proved this as well, by making the choice to leave and be Naruto's wife. And now Hanabi has made the same choice. It wasn't one I was happy with, but I decided it was one I would support. So, when the elders told me I had no choice and that I had to bring Hanabi home, I told them we always have a choice. They could do as they please, but my choice was to support my children and not cause them any more pain. Do you really think that's what you're doing? Asked Tsunade. You lied to your children and you're sitting here wallowing during a time when they need you. As clan leader I might not be one of the people trying to force Hanabi home, but I can't show open support for them, stated Hiashi. Why not? Showing them support will help others realize this might not be what the Hyuga clan wants. You said we always have a choice. What do you choose? Asked Tsunade firmly. Back in the Hokage office, Hiashi had just finished telling his story to everyone. So, you're saying what they really want is Hanabi's child? Asked Naruto angrily. Yes, they feel that by having a child that is both an Uzumaki and a Hyuga and raising them in our ways, we'll be able to increase the inner strength of the clan, confirmed Hiashi. As much as I can respect the desire to get stronger, that is not going to happen, snapped Naruto. That is my child she's carrying and I'm not going to let anyone hurt her or our child. Naruto temper, advised Kakashi, though he understood Naruto's anger. It's alright, he has every right to be angry, interjected Kakashi. I am as well, which is why I'm here. I'd like to help protect Hanabi until she can change her name. Not a chance. Why should I trust you? Demanded Naruto. I'm her father and I want to protect her, answered Hiashi calmly. Really? Because you're not doing a very good job, spat Naruto. Naruto, interjected Tsunade, causing everyone to go quiet. I understand your anger, but you need to think about this more logically. Yes, he doesn't have the best track record as a father, no one will argue that. Yes, he should have been more supportive when this. And yes, he hasn't given you much reason to trust him. But if he really didn't care, do you think he would be here today? I guess not, admitted Naruto. The clan elders weren't happy with my decision to come here today, added Hiashi. But I repeated what I said before, I'm not going to cause my daughters any more pain and I'm going to support them. I'm not the one you need to convince, stated Naruto. Hiashi looked confused. I'll let you help, but only if both Hinata and Hanabi say it's okay. We agreed we were all equals in this relationship, and I feel this is a decision we need to make together. I don't trust you, but if Hinata and Hanabi do, that's all I need, declared Naruto. He turned to Kakashi. Sensei, I'm going to give training a miss today so Lord Hiashi and I can go home and sort everything out. That's okay, I was just about to suggest the same thing. Besides, I think this could be beneficial, stated Naruto. Gran, I mean Lady Tsunade has already confirmed that only a few Hyuga are actively trying to attack my home. If their own leader is stepping in to defend, something tells me that'll make them even less hesitant to attack. I agree, added Hiashi. Alright, we can put off Hokage training until you feel ready to return, said Kakashi. Hold on, interjected Tsunade. Lord Hiashi, I believe there's something else you should tell Naruto. Of course, nodded Hiashi. It was the Hyuga clan who started the rumor that you used the power of the fox to corrupt my daughters and turn them into your servants. What? Asked a surprised Naruto. I assure you this wasn't something I approved of, stated Hiashi. They know getting Hanabi back won't be easy, not just because you're protecting her, but also because you'd have the support of the whole village. After everything you had done in the last war, the clan believed the village would do everything they could to help, even though you'd done something as old-fashioned as taking a second wife. They felt the only way they had a chance of retrieving Hanabi was to ensure your support from the village was minimal. And so, they spread the rumor that Hyuga clan had lost their heirs due to the power of the fox. Now many others fear you'll use this power on more women. You know, every day I'm happier that Hinata is no longer a member of the Hyuga clan, stated Naruto. I'm happy Hanabi will soon be free as well. As am I, sighed Hiashi. Even I didn't think the elders would go to such extremes. That still doesn't explain why the village believed this crap so easily, said Naruto. Unfortunately, Naruto, fear is an easy motivator, and despite everything you and the Nine Tails did during the war, people still hold a lot of fear over the tailed beasts, interjected Tsunade. Furthermore, the Hyuga clan is a well-known, respected and influential clan, so it doesn't surprise me they were able to spread this rumor so effectively. Isn't there anything you can do to convince people otherwise? Asked Naruto, turning to Hiashi. I can try, but I fear the damage might already be done, sighed Hiashi. Even if it worked, it wouldn't solve everything, added Kakashi. From this rumor an additional rumor was created. Not everyone is convinced this is because of the fox, but it has led others to believe this is the result of you letting your accomplishments go to your head. So, even if you can convince people this isn't because of the fox, many will still believe you're doing this because you think it's your right as the strongest shinobi in the world. And they even think you'll take on additional wives because of this. Let me guess, the only way to fix that is to earn back their trust through more heroic actions and hard work. Asked Naruto. I'm afraid so, confirmed Kakashi. People are impossible to please, aren't they? Asked Naruto. Pretty much, but you did it once and you can do it again, stated Kakashi. Here's hoping, but I don't mind putting off being Hokage for a few more years, it means more time with my family, stated Naruto. It's always good to see a silver lining, chucked Tsunade. Naruto headed for the door. Let's go, Lord Hiashi, the sooner you clear things up with Hinata and Hanabi the better. Hiashi nodded and followed Naruto throughout the door. You think they'll be okay? Asked Tsunade. It won't take us much longer to solve the issues with the Hyuga clan. I've already given Hanabi the papers she needs to change her name. After they're submitted it'll be over in a few weeks, stated Kakashi. As for the rest of the village, only time will tell. They'll be fine. People avoided Naruto when he was young because they feared the power of the fox. Now that he has full control over it, only a fool would attack him or the women he loves, stated Tsunade. I hope you're right, sighed Kakashi. Naruto and Hiashi headed back to the Uzumaki home. While stares still came from the other villages, they weren't as hate-filled as usual. Instead, they were curious, as they were amazed Naruto was traveling with the head of the Hyuga clan, especially with everything that was going on. Once they reached Naruto's home, they were met by those who were acting as security. They were just as surprised to see Hiashi as the other villagers were. What is he doing here? Demanded Kiba. Lord Hiashi told me more about what the Hyuga clan are planning, answered Naruto. Because of this we have a lot to discuss with Hinata and Hanabi. How can you trust anything he says? If I were you, I wouldn't let him within 10 feet of Hinata and Hanabi, stated Kiba. Personally, I don't trust him, but I've decided allowing him to help shouldn't be up to me, said Naruto. Are you leaving that decision to Hinata and Hanabi? Asked Shino. Yes, answered Naruto. I think that's fair. He is their father, stated Shino. The fact that he's the father is the very reason they shouldn't let him in. Especially the way he treated them while they were growing up, stated Kiba. Kiba, that is not for us to decide, argued Shino. Shikamaru, could you back me up here? Asked Kiba to Shikamaru. I don't think it's the wisest decision, but it could also make this situation less of a drag, so I say go for it, sighed Shikamaru. I appreciate the offer, Naruto, but it might be better if I handle this, said Hiashi. But I think I have a way get the elders to back off, stated Naruto. Hiashi was about to object, but Hinata wanted to hear what her husband had in mind. What do you propose? Before I tell you, I want to assure you that we'll only go through with this if both you and Hanabi agree, and when the time comes, the decision won't be up to anyone but our children, answered Naruto. What do you mean? Asked Hiashi, who was also curious to hear Naruto's plan. Naruto then told them his idea to keep the Hyuga elders at bay, at least for the next few years. The next few weeks were relatively calm for the Uzumaki family. Now that Naruto knew how far the Hyuga elders were willing to go, he decided to stay home until Hanabi could change her name. This worked well, as with him around no Hyuga dared attack. This had also done a lot to ward off further vandalization from other villagers. Hiashi also came over whenever he could. While his presence for security was unneeded, he wanted to make it clear to the entire village that he was supporting his daughters and not the Hyuga elders. This had also been beneficial, as even fewer Hyuga were lurking around Naruto's home. They knew that if the clan leader wasn't supporting the elders, this wasn't a task worth pursuing. They had also managed to convince most of the village that the rumors about Naruto using the power of the Nine Tails to corrupt Hinata and Hanabi were false. Hiashi publicly announced to the village that the rumors were made up by the Hyuga elders, to ensure Naruto got less support from the village. He also let the villages know this wasn't a decision he supported and was actively helping defend his daughter. Tsunade also stepped in to confirm the corruption rumors were false, as she had examined both Hinata and Hanabi and saw no evidence that proved this. This had been enough to convince most of the village that Naruto hadn't forced the Hyuga sisters to be his wives and that both were indeed in love with Naruto. There were, however, still a few that were skeptical. To make matters worse, much of the village were still repulsed by Naruto's actions. Regardless of all he'd done in the war, they were disgusted that he had decided to have two wives. Many still held the belief that Naruto let his accomplishments go to his head and he believed he was free to do whatever he wanted. They felt this could cause a lot of damage to the village's reputation, especially considering Naruto was in line to be the next Hokage. How would others feel about their leader doing something as old-fashioned as taking a second wife? Would it make them believe their leader was a tyrant, and how would that reflect on the rest of the village? Because of this, most of the village agreed they would never acknowledge Hanabi, as Naruto's wife, and their child would not be legitimate either. It didn't take long for these facts to reach the Uzumaki household. They knew they would face hardships going forward, but as long as they had each other, they knew they would be okay. They were just glad there were still some villagers who supported them. Most of Naruto and Hinata's old academy friends had come around to add extra security and were willing to help the family run errands, as neither Naruto or Hinata wanted to leave Hanabi. Although most of their friends were supporting them, that didn't mean they immediately accepted the situation. Sakura's best friend Ino had a similar opinion to Sakura, accusing Naruto of being a disgusting pervert who had betrayed Hinata. Thankfully, she calmed down once she heard Hinata's side of the story. Ino's husband Sai, on the other hand, was impressed by Naruto's ability to have two romantic partners, as this wasn't anything like the traditional relationships he had read about. Both of Hinata's old teammates had accepted the relationship was genuine when they heard Hinata's side of the story. Shikamaru's teammate Choji didn't seem particularly bothered by the relationship and simply congratulated them. Finally, Tenten, who was the former teammate of Neji and Lee, had similar suspicions as Sakura and Ino, but didn't argue about it when she heard the full story. The only person who hadn't come around was Sakura. This surprised everyone, because as Naruto's former teammate and one of his closest friends, many felt she would be one of the first to support him, but she hadn't come to see them since she initially confronted Naruto. Naruto just hoped she would come around, because he didn't want their friendship to end because of this. Thankfully, this day would come sooner than they thought. At the Lee house, Rock Lee was getting ready to head to the Uzumaki home, as he had agreed to help with security that day. Sakura had a shift at the hospital and was coming out to say goodbye to Lee and Metal and was surprised to see Lee getting Metal ready to go out. "Where are you going?" she asked. "Lord Hokage has asked me to help with security at Naruto's, since many others have had to go on missions," answered Lee. "That's not compulsory, you know. You don't have to go," stated Sakura. "I know, but Naruto's my friend and I want to help," stated Lee. "You can't be serious," stated Sakura. "How can you possibly support this?" "As I said, Sakura, it's none of our business what Naruto does in his personal life. If he wants to have 2 wives, that's up to him," said Lee. "But it's disgusting and perverted," argued Sakura. "Both Hinata and Hanabi are okay with this. I don't see the problem," countered Lee. "The problem is Naruto cheated on his wife and he's having a child with another woman," spat Sakura. "Again, they're all okay with this, meaning he didn't cheat," stated Lee. "I don't believe that's true. Considering how obsessed with Naruto Hinata was growing up, I doubt she'd be willing to share Naruto with anyone. Especially her own sister," argued Sakura. "Please tell me you don't believe the rumors of him corrupting them?" asked Lee. "Of course not. I don't think Naruto would go that far," answered Sakura. "Then what do you believe exactly?" asked Lee. "Isn't it obvious?" asked Sakura. "Naruto obviously manipulated Hinata into thinking this is what she wants. We both know she would do anything for him, so I'm sure it was easy to manipulate her into letting him take a second partner, or he would leave her." "Do you really think Naruto's that cruel?" asked Lee. "No, but I do think he's a big enough pervert," answered Sakura. "Sounds to me like you're only basing this off what you know about Naruto and not what you know about Hinata," argued Lee. "No, I'm not," countered Sakura. "As I said, I don't believe Hinata would want to share Naruto with anyone. He manipulated her into doing so." "I do agree with some of that," stated Lee. "After Naruto and Hinata had gotten together, I believe she would have fought any woman who even dared to flirt with him, but you also have to remember how much Hinata loves her little sister. You were on the mission they went on to rescue Hanabi after she'd been kidnapped. You told me that Hinata was willing to betray Naruto if it meant she could save Hanabi. To me that says there is only one person Hinata cares about more than Naruto, and that's Hanabi. I think it's safe to assume Hinata would do anything to make her happy, including sharing the man she loves." Sakura couldn't argue that Lee had a point. But she had another argument. "Okay, fine. Maybe Hinata does love her sister so much that she's willing to share Naruto with her, but that doesn't mean Naruto had to say yes. I honestly think he only agreed to this because it meant he could have 2 women in his life." "And what's wrong with that?" asked Lee. "What's wrong is that I seriously doubt Naruto loves Hanabi the same way he loves Hinata. He was just happy to have another partner. In fact, I now doubt if Naruto even loves Hinata," stated Sakura. "You act like someone can only have love in their heart for one person," stated Lee. "Some people get married more than once, whether it be through death or divorce. So, people clearly can have love in their heart for more than one person. It's not the same. In those instances, couples have stopped loving each other or one of them dies. Sure, someone can love someone after they've loved someone else, but how can you accept someone can love 2 people at the same time?" argued Sakura. "So, you're saying, we should only love one person at a time? In Naruto's case he can't say he loves Hanabi, while he loves and is with Hinata. Which should be the same for everyone?" asked Lee. "Exactly," answered Sakura, thinking Lee had come around. The next question was difficult for Lee to ask, but he knew it had to be said. "Then why did you marry me?" This confused Sakura. "What are you talking about? I married you because I love you. But I wasn't your first love. Some might argue I wasn't even your second," stated Lee. "Okay, yes, I loved Sasuke at one point, but when he was finally ready to give us a chance, I turned him down. And I did this because he had hurt me too much and I wanted to be with someone I could trust and rely on," stated Sakura. "That's why I fell in love with you, because I knew I could trust and rely on you to be a good husband." Naruto could have also been that, argued Lee. You know I never thought about Naruto that way, countered Sakura. Actually, I don't. You and he were always close, and you were the only girl he had eyes on for years, countered Lee. Yes, he had a crush on me, but we were always just friends, countered Sakura. That doesn't change the fact that if you'd given him a chance he would have said yes, and he would have been just as an attentive husband as I am, argued Lee. Lee, that is not fair. I chose you and married you because I knew you were the one I could love the most and who would love me the most, stated Sakura, starting to cry. And I'm grateful for that truly, and I know Naruto and Sasuke weren't the only ones who admired you. You could have had any man of your choice, so I feel extremely lucky that I was the one you chose, said Lee calmly. But that doesn't change the fact that I wasn't the first man you loved. As we know, I'm not one to hold a grudge, but I do sometimes wonder if marrying me and having metal is just a consolation prize, because while I believe you when you say you and Naruto are just friends, I know a small part of you will always love Sasuke. Sakura was speechless. Look, I'm sorry I upset you, but I just felt I needed to put things in perspective. I don't want your friendship with Naruto and Hinata to be ruined because of this. You and I are proof that you can love more than one person in your lifetime. That's exactly what's happening with Naruto. Yes, Hinata was his first love and Hanabi's his second, but by some miracle he's able to love them both at the same time and they both love him. The three of them are happy with this arrangement, so who are we to judge? Asked Lee. Sakura had no counter-argument for this. Lee knelt down and picked up metal. Now I told Lord Hokage I'd help today and that's what I'm going to do. Metal can play with Boruto in the meantime, stated Lee. And before you say something like, I don't want our son hanging around a family like that, he's going to eventually, because Boruto and Metal will be in the same class. I love you, Sakura, but Naruto, Hinata and Hanabi have made their choice and they're happy with it. There's nothing we can do about it, so we might as well accept it. Lee left the home, leaving Sakura to think about what he said. Most of the day was normal for the Uzumaki family. Lee, Shikamaru and Sai had shown up to provide extra security and their children, along with Boruto, were being supervised by the Uzumakis. Although he knew he was being overprotective, Naruto refused to leave Hinata and Hanabi alone until the issue with the Hyuga clan was resolved. Hinata and Hanabi didn't mind, however, as it showed they truly did marry the best man in the Leaf Village. Anyone helping with security were also fine with this, because not only were their children being guarded by the strongest ninja in the village, but they also knew Hinata would provide quality childcare. They also couldn't deny it would give Hanabi plenty of practice for when her own child arrived. Unknown to the Uzumaki, there would be an unexpected visitor that day. Thankfully, it wouldn't be a hostile one. They heard a knock on the door and Hinata stood up. Hinata had agreed to answer the door from now on, as it allowed Naruto to protect Hanabi. She was surprised to open the door and see not just Lee but also Sakura. The latter of whom was looking very guilty. What's going on? Asked Hinata. Nothing bad, I promise you, answered Lee. Do you remember how Lady Fifth was going to give Hanabi her checkups until the mess with the Hyuga clan was resolved? Yes, queried Hinata. In fact, I think she was going to give Hanabi one today. Sakura stepped forward. Lady Tsunade is unavailable today. She was going to reschedule, but I volunteered to give Hanabi a checkup. I know you probably don't want me in your home after the last incident, but if you'll let me, I'll happily check on how Hanabi's baby is doing. To Sakura's surprise, Hinata smiled. Of course, Sakura. Come on in, said Hinata, gesturing inside. But remember, I'm not the one you need to convince. Sakura was just happy Hinata was one of the most forgiving people in the village. She stepped inside and followed her into the living room. Sakura, what are you doing here? Asked Naruto, who was surprised to see her. She's come to give Hanabi a checkup. And while we agreed to make all our decisions together, I think the choice to let her do this rests with Naruto and Hanabi, stated Hinata. Sakura was fully prepared for both Naruto and Hanabi to kick her out. Naruto, about before I. It's okay, Sakura. I'm not mad at you, Naruto stated calmly. You're not? Asked Sakura. We knew people might not react positively to this, so we prepared for the worst. Explained Naruto. In fact, I had a feeling you'd react the way you did, especially considering our history and my reputation as a pervert. Sakura chucked at this. Well, let's just say someone helped me see things from a different perspective, said Sakura, thinking of her husband. Glad to hear it, because I don't want our friendship to end because of this, stated Naruto. I don't think it should either, said Sakura. Either way, I'm fine with you giving Hanabi and our child a checkup. In fact, there's no one I'd trust more, stated Naruto. But there's still one more person you need to convince. Sakura looked at Hanabi, who was looking skeptical. If Naruto and Big Sister trust you, then I will as well, but I'm warning you, if you do anything to harm my child, there isn't a healer in the entire universe who will be able to fix what I do to you. If you say so, laughed Sakura. She's not kidding, warned Hinata. I'd be careful if I were you. Noted, said Sakura, a little more nervous. Sakura then gave Hanabi her checkup, and despite the lack of equipment, was able to use her skills as both a medical ninja and a doctor to see how Hanabi's baby was progressing. Well, both you and the baby are healthy, and the baby is progressing as normal, said Sakura. Good to hear, said Hanabi. But if you want to know the gender, you'll have to wait till you can go to the hospital for a checkup, stated Sakura. We're fine with not knowing the gender, we want to keep it a surprise, confirmed Hanabi. That's fair, said Sakura. I just hope we haven't pulled you away from the hospital for too long, said Hinata. Actually, I asked for a personal day, stated Sakura. My visit here was of my own choice. In fact, Hinata, I was actually hoping to talk to you. Sure. What about? Asked Hinata. Well, actually I was hoping to speak privately. Would you mind if we went for a walk? Asked Sakura. I don't know, Sakura. I don't want to leave Hanabi right now, stated Hinata. It's alright, Hinata. Hanabi is more than safe with me, interjected Naruto. And I think having a talk with Sakura might be good for all of us. Lee had let Naruto know about the conversation he had had with Sakura that morning, especially with regards to how Lee thought Sakura wasn't considering Hinata's opinion on the matter. Because of this, Naruto was happy to let them talk privately. But what about the kids? Asked Hinata. I can't expect you to do all the childcare. I'm happy to watch them till you get back, answered Naruto. And it gives me plenty of practice, laughed Hanabi, who had started playing with the children. Well, if you're sure, but I'll still try to be back as quickly as possible, stated Hinata. Sakura and Hinata left the house and began their walk around the Leaf Village. They walked in silence for a bit, as both felt awkward about starting the conversation they were about to have. Hinata then noticed a tea house and suggested they sit down to talk about everything. After they ordered some tea and dumplings, Sakura decided to cut to the chase. I think you know why I asked for a talk, stated Sakura. You want to ask about my relationship? Asked Hinata. Yes. It's come to my attention that I jumped to a negative conclusion based solely on my history with Naruto, stated Sakura. And I haven't really taken your feelings into consideration. Like Naruto said, we all expected you to react that way, laughed Hinata. Do you all just have a negative view of me now? Asked Sakura. No, we just know what you're like, laughed Hinata. Still, I've realized that I didn't have the full story, and I acted poorly, said Sakura. I know you already confirmed this the last time we spoke, but I think I just need to hear it again when we're alone. Is this really what you want? It is, more than anything in the world, answered Hinata. But why? To say you were in love with Naruto growing up would be an understatement. You were obsessed with him, so it amazes me you'd want to share him with anyone, stated Sakura. In every other case that would be true. If I saw another woman even flirt with Naruto, I don't think I could be held responsible for my actions, laughed Hinata. Then why did you make an exception for Hanabi? Asked Sakura. I think you already know the answer to that, answered Hinata. Lee did help me see logic to the situation. He reminded me of that mission we went on together to rescue Hanabi and the lengths you were willing to go to save her. Which included betraying Naruto. Lee also said that Hanabi might be the only person in the world you care about more than Naruto, stated Sakura. I wouldn't go that far, said Hinata. Don't get me wrong, I love Naruto with all my heart, but there's a special bond between an older and younger sister that can be greater than anything, which includes the responsibility an older sister feels towards their younger sister. I guess that's something I can't understand as I'm an only child, sighed Sakura. But I guess that means you'll do whatever it takes to make your sister happy. That's correct, confirmed Hinata. Even before Naruto and I got together, I suspected she liked him as well. Because I could see she looked at him the same way I did. In fact, after Naruto and I got engaged, I could see a lot of sadness on her face, because she felt Naruto would never be hers. I think she hoped her feelings would fade, but they never did. In the end, she was filled with guilt and felt the need to tell us the truth. So, one day she came to us and confessed she was in love with Naruto. To everyone's surprise, I immediately invited her to join us. Without asking Naruto if he was okay with this, asked Sakura. Yes, Naruto does express that he feels he had no say in the matter, but he wanted me to be happy, so he didn't fight it, stated Hinata. He also admits there was no point in looking a gift horse in the mouth. That doesn't surprise me at all, sighed Sakura. I'm also guessing Hanabi was overjoyed when you asked her to join you and Naruto. Overjoyed would be an understatement, laughed Hinata. Especially considering she feared I would hate her, but she's my sister, I could never hate her. And I'm guessing the rest is history? Asked Sakura. Pretty much. Hanabi moved in with us shortly after, and not only did we both grow closer with Naruto, but we also grew closer as sisters, said Hinata. If you don't mind me asking, why did you and Naruto still go ahead with your marriage? Because from what I can see, you're trying your best to treat everyone as equals. Asked Sakura. For a variety of reasons, stated Hinata. Our wedding date was close when Hanabi confessed, and we feared people would become suspicious if we suddenly called it off. Hanabi also didn't want to ruin our special day, and we all agreed this could help keep our polygamous relationship a secret. Not much of a secret now, joked Sakura. Well, again, we feared how the village would react upon finding out, stated Hinata. As you can see, our fears were warranted. Yeah, can't say I blame you for keeping it a secret, laughed Sakura. If I'm honest though, I'm kind of glad the secret's out, admitted Hinata. Really? But it's caused you guys so much trouble, stated Sakura. I know, but I sometimes feel keeping it a secret prevented Hanabi from being an equal part of the relationship, said Hinata. She even told me once that she often felt like a third wheel to Naruto in my relationship, but she didn't mind as being with Naruto made her happy. Is that why she had her own room in your house, to help keep the relationship a secret? Asked Sakura. That's correct. We also had special rules when it came to quality time, as I was Naruto's legal spouse, admitted Hinata. Sakura was surprised Hinata had been so open about her and Naruto's private time, as there would have been a time where Hinata would have fainted by just thinking of the topic. Sakura had a feeling she'd regret this, but she was now curious about how their relationship worked. What kind of rules? Did he spend 3 days with you and 3 days with Hanabi, and he got you on the final day of the week? Asked Sakura. No, if Hanabi wanted to spend quality time with Naruto, I had to be there, answered Hinata. Wait, you mean you guys? Yes, we all spent time together, interjected Hinata, not wanting Sakura to finish her question. Isn't that awkward? Asked Sakura. It was at first, but we got used to it and we keep our minds on Naruto, stated Hinata. I'm guessing as his wife you still got alone time with him? Asked Sakura. I mean, you got pregnant a year ago. Yes, but I tried to limit the alone time to when Hanabi was away on missions so she wouldn't feel left out, confirmed Hinata. In fact, while I was pregnant with Boruto, we decided to amend the rules of solo quality time, because we knew Hanabi deserved alone time with Naruto as much as I did. If I was away, they could do whatever they wanted, stated Hinata. I think Hanabi was glad when I returned to mission work after Boruto was born. I'm guessing that's how Hanabi ended up pregnant? Asked Sakura. I'd say so, because I went away on a mission for a few days and a few weeks after I got back, we discovered she was pregnant. I wasn't happy, as we wanted to avoid this to keep our relationship a secret, but I guess it was going to happen eventually. I think Hanabi also liked the idea of having Naruto's child, can't say I blame her, said Hinata, thinking about her own child with Naruto. And that's what led to you guys deciding to make your relationship public? Asked Sakura. Yes, because we knew it would only be a matter of time before people found out, confirmed Hinata. I'm glad though, because it means no one has to keep their love a secret, and I feel this has made Hanabi an equal in our relationship. And because of that, I'm guessing you now split your time with Naruto evenly. Asked Sakura. What do you mean? Asked Hinata. He spends 3 days with you, 3 days with Hanabi, and you alternate Sundays, stated Sakura. No, we all share a bed now, and we'll be turning Hanabi's room into a nursery for her child, Hinata clarified. Wait, so you mean all 3 of you? Yes, interjected Hinata. As I said, we're all equals. You know what? I don't want to know anymore. I still think it's gross, stated Sakura. You're the one who asked, stated Hinata. I didn't think you'd tell me. I thought you'd faint when being asked a question about your intimate life, said Sakura. I knew you'd gotten more confident over the years, but I didn't think you'd be this confident. Hinata chucked. Being with Naruto has allowed me to find confidence in myself I never thought I'd have, but I think inviting Hanabi to join us has allowed me to find even more confidence, said Hinata. Clearly, groaned Sakura. Realizing they'd gotten off track, Sakura decided to steer the conversation back to her initial question. So, do you think Hanabi's the only person you'd be willing to share Naruto with? Asked Sakura. Yes, Hanabi's my precious little sister and I want her to be happy. Being with Naruto makes her happy, so I'm more than happy for us to be a marriage of 3. But to every other woman our Naruto is off limits, answered Hinata. How does Hanabi feel about all this? Asked Sakura. Admittedly, I think we'd both prefer to have Naruto to ourselves, but I think she's just happy she's allowed to be with and be loved by Naruto, especially considering he loved me first. We also know that given the circumstances, this is the best outcome we could ask for and we're both happy with that, answered Hinata. No offense Hinata, but I can't decide if you're the weirdest older sister in the world or the most considerate, stated Sakura. I can understand that. Hanabi herself feels I'm the greatest older sister ever for allowing this to happen, laughed Hinata. Can't imagine why, said Sakura sarcastically. Now convinced that the relationship between Naruto, Hinata and Hanabi was genuine, they spent the rest of their time at the tea house discussing other topics. When they were done, they headed back to the Uzumaki home. Sakura apologized to Naruto for her actions and admitted that she now believed their relationship was real. Naruto, however, admitted there was nothing to forgive, as he had never been angry at Sakura and was just glad they were still friends. Sakura was starting to see why the 3 of them worked together so well, as they were arguably the most forgiving trio in the village. Sakura then asked if she could stay for the rest of the day. It meant she could spend time with her son, it added extra security, and she could help anyone in case they got hurt. Naruto, Hinata and Hanabi had no objections and reminded Sakura that she was always welcome in their home. The day continued without much drama. Not a single Hyuga dared attack their home, and aside from the needs of the children, the day was stress-free. Come evening, everyone was preparing to leave, when they heard a knock on the door. As before, Hinata was the one who answered. Lord Sixth? Asked Hinata, seeing Kakashi on the other side. Good evening, Hinata. May I come in? Asked Kakashi. I have good news. Of course, said Hinata, gesturing him inside. They headed back to the living room, where everyone else was present. Sensei, what's up? Asked Naruto. I have news. You would have heard about it by tomorrow, but I thought it was best I come deliver the news in person, answered Kakashi. You should have no more trouble from the Hyuga clan. You mean? Asked a hopeful Hanabi. Yes. Welcome to the Leaf Village. Hanabi Uzumaki, stated Kakashi. Hanabi was nearly brought to tears of joy. While they knew their issues with the rest of the village weren't over, she was just glad that tomorrow she'd be able to walk through the village a free woman. Naruto and Hinata also hugged her, because now, they felt no one could say she wasn't a member of their family. In their eyes, their family had gained a member and they would soon gain another in 8 months. And now that none of them had to worry about an attack from the Hyuga clan, they decided the next thing they would do was help Hiashi with the issues he was facing from the Hyuga elders. Now that her name was officially Hanabi Uzumaki, she was eager to step outside and continue life as normal. Well, as normal as life could be for someone in a polygamous marriage. Naruto, Hinata and Hanabi had let Hiashi know about the news and had agreed to come over to talk with the elders about what they could do regarding the next Hyuga heir. They just hoped the elders were willing to listen. After they were ready, Hanabi stepped outside and took what felt like the first breath of fresh air she'd had in years. How does it feel, Hanabi Uzumaki? Asked Naruto following her outside. Like the greatest thing ever, she answered before hugging. With Boruto in her arms, Hinata came outside and smiled at the sight before her. She was so happy that her sister could now go outside and be publicly seen as a member of their relationship. We'd better get going, interjected Hinata. We don't want to keep father and the elders waiting. Of course, I just hope they agree to our suggestion, stated Hanabi. I think they will, because like with us, they'll know this is the best outcome they can get, said Naruto. And if they don't, that's their loss. Agreed, said Hanabi rubbing her stomach. Before they left, both Hanabi and Hinata activated their Byakugans to ensure that they were safe to leave. While they were confident word had spread about Hanabi's name change, they still wanted to make sure no one was watching them. After they confirmed there was no one around, they left. They headed to the Hyuga compound, but not before dropping Boruto off at Kurenai's, who had agreed to watch him for the day. When they reached the Hyuga compound, the guards let them in without hesitation. One of them even congratulated Hanabi on her escape and her pregnancy. They wasted no time heading to Hiyashi's chambers, who was waiting for them with a group of Hyuga elders. Good, you're here, please have a seat, Hiyashi requested. They all sat down on the same side as Hiyashi and faced the elders. The elders didn't look happy, especially the main one, who was Hiyashi's father. You all have some nerve coming back here, especially after the disgrace you've brought to the clan, stated the main elder. They are no longer members of this clan, and I only did what any good husband would do, stated Naruto. And from what I understand, you wanted to use my child for your own selfish gains. Mind your tongue, said another elder. No, he has a right to speak just like any of us, and not just because I was also against what you wanted to do with Hanabi's unborn child, interjected Hiyashi. It was the only way to preserve the honor of the Hyuga clan, after the disgraceful actions of your daughter, said the main elder. It would have allowed us to strengthen the main house and uphold our traditions by raising the child as a Hyuga. Grandfather, please understand, Hanabi was cut off. Don't call me that, interjected the main elder. After everything you've done, you are no longer my grandchild. Do not speak to her that way, growled Hiyashi. I've let you dictate the lives of my children for too long. As head of the clan, I'm putting my foot down. My children are no longer yours to order around. And while they may not be Hyuga anymore, they are still my daughters, meaning they will always be welcome in my home. I recommend you accept that, as they will continue to be a part of my life whether you like it or not. The elders could tell that Hiyashi's decision was final, and even if they all voted against him, he would refuse. Despite his responsibilities as clan leader, it was clear he was now choosing to put his responsibilities as a father first. Very well, but you still have responsibilities to the clan, said the main elder. With both your daughters now Uzumaki, they can no longer be heir to the Hyuga clan. And sadly, the next in line to be clan leader passed away during the war. A tragedy that saddens all of us. While the clan elders were generally cold and emotionless, even they couldn't deny they were saddened by Neji's passing, as he was a true prodigy and would have made a great clan leader in Hinata and Hanabi's place. So, it is your responsibility to pick the next heir, clarified the main elder. That is why we are all here, stated Hiyashi. Naruto has come up with a solution that can satisfy us all. He is no Hyuga, why should we listen to anything he has to say? Asked the main elder. Because I think this decision is most fair, answered Hiyashi. Fine, we'll hear him out, but if he's going to suggest one of his children be clan heir, that'll be impossible, unless he wishes to hand one over to be raised by us, stated the main elder. That'll never happen. They are my children, and they will be raised by me and my wives, clarified Naruto. Then what do you propose? Asked another elder who seemed far more reasonable than the others. First, I want to clarify a few things. You wanted Hanabi's child, because you felt an Uzumaki, Hyuga hybrid could strengthen the clan, but you wanted them to be raised under your ways. Asked Naruto. Correct, answered the main elder. You couldn't do this with my son Boruto, as Hinata had already given up her rights to the Hyuga by becoming an Uzumaki, meaning our son was born an Uzumaki. Asked Naruto. Also correct, But at the time Hanabi was still a Hyuga, meaning her child could be born a Hyuga, confirmed the main elder. However, in doing so you also wanted brand Hanabi and take her child away from her. Asked Naruto. It was the only way to ensure the child was raised right, stated the main elder. That's where our issue comes in. We feel that there is a better way in raising the next Hyuga leader, than by taking them from the people who love them the most, said Naruto. Furthermore, I feel we need to change our approach to raising our leaders anyway. Our outdated and cruel practices were not what Hinata needed to grow strong. They may have worked for Hanabi, but had I been more caring and compassionate to Hinata, she would have progressed much faster. We fear the same fate would have befallen Hanabi's child had we let you take them from their parents, interjected Hiashi. You call our practices outdated and cruel, and yet your son-in-law is practicing something done by tyrannical dictators, stated the main elder. That might be true, but I'm doing it out of love, not because I can, interjected Naruto. Regardless, you still haven't told us how we is supposed to find our next heir, stated the main elder, wanting to get this conversation back on track. I don't think the heir should be chosen, suggested Naruto. What are you talking about? Asked the main elder. I'm guessing you'll always want the heir to be a descendant of the main house. Asked Naruto. Yes, but in this case, we'd be willing to accept the most appropriate member of the branch family, now that the main family line is dead, answered the main elder. Maybe it doesn't have to die, suggested Naruto. What do you mean? Asked the reasonable elder. The only reason the main line has died is because of the choices Hanabi and Hinata made. They decided there were things they wanted more than being their clan leader, said Naruto, taking both their hands. Choices they shouldn't have been allowed to make, as it was the responsibility of at least one of them to become clan leader, argued the main elder. Don't you think that maybe it was the lack of choice that made them decide to leave? Asked Naruto. The Hyuga elders were speechless by this response. For the longest time people told me I would amount to nothing, but I made the choice to prove them wrong and become the ninja I am today. You also thought Hinata was destined to be a failure, but she managed to prove you wrong. We're living proof that the only people who decide our destinies are us, and we accomplished that through the choices we made, stated Naruto. If I may interject again, for the longest time the Hyuga hasn't allowed its members to choose their own path. We force them to have a predetermined destiny at birth, which has only created turmoil over time. Both Neji and Hinata broke that cycle, and now Hanabi has as well, stated Hiashi. My point is, it shouldn't be solely up to you or Lord Hiashi who becomes the next heir to the Hyuga clan. It should also be up to the individual if they want to be clan heir. Both you and Lord Hiashi can have your preferences as to who you want to be clan leader, but in the end, it should be up to the individual if they want to be clan heir, stated Naruto. I don't want to force any of my kids to follow a path they don't want to follow. Both Hinata and Hanabi nodded at this statement. But I can understand and respect your desire to want to have your next leader be a descendant of the main branch. So, this is what I propose. Please wait a few more years until my children are older. As you know, Hinata and my son Boruto has my eyes, which lowers the chance of him having the Byakugan. The same could be true for my child with Hanabi. However, Lord Hiashi has confirmed there is still a chance they could inherit the Byakugan regardless of how their eyes look. Should they awaken the Byakugan, we're happy for them to be considered as the next Hyuga heir, but only when they are old enough to make the decision on their own and only if it is what they want, stated Naruto. I know that might not sound ideal to you, but this way not only do you potentially get a stronger leader, but you'll also have a descendant of the main branch. And like I said, it'll ensure this is a path your future leader wanted to take. As I said, I feel this is the best decision to satisfy everyone, interjected Lord Hiashi. The elders looked at each other. May we have a moment to think about this? Asked the main elder. Of course, take as long as you need, said Hiashi. They bowed their heads, and the elders left to discuss their options. Everyone else stayed in the room until the elders returned. Hiashi ordered some tea for them and everyone sat in silence as they waited for the elders to return. After half an hour, a door opened, the elders returned and retook their seats. Well, asked Hiashi. We've thought about your proposal and we agree this is the best option we can have, stated the main elder, who then turned to Naruto. But I hope you understand there will be rules your kids will have to follow should one of them agree. Like what? Asked Naruto. For starters, they will be required to give up the Uzumaki name and take the Hyuga name, answered the elder. Couldn't they simply hyphen it? Interjected Hinata. Unfortunately, no. In order to be the head of the Hyuga clan, the only surname they can have is Hyuga, clarified the main elder. I understand, but I'm okay with that. Whatever decision my kids make, I'll support, stated Naruto before turning to his wives. But only with the support of their mothers. Hinata and Hanabi looked at each other, they then turned back to the elders and nodded, showing they agreed with this condition. Very well, but that's not the only condition they'll have to follow. They'll also have to leave home and come live here, so they can be trained in not only the techniques of the Hyuga clan, but also in our traditions and ways, said the main elder. I had a feeling this would be a condition. That being said, even if one of my children decides they want to be the leader of the Hyuga clan, I don't want them to be named heir until they're 18, because no matter what I won't be missing out of their childhoods, stated Naruto. The main elder looked at the others and they all nodded in agreement. Very well, but I want them to know they have this option as soon as both become genin, stated the main elder. Make it till they're chunin. I think they should be able to grow as ninja first before they have to make a decision, countered Naruto. The main elder looked back at the other elders who again nodded. Very well, we won't ask them to make a decision until both your children are chunin, and they won't officially become heir until they are 18, stated the main elder. But our other conditions stay. They must take the name Hyuga and live at the compound after they are named heir. Naruto turned to Hinata and Hanabi. Both nodded, showing they also agreed with the proposed conditions. Before I agree to this, I have one more question to ask, stated Naruto, turning back to the elders. Will my wives and I still be allowed to see the child who decides to become heir? The main elder sighed. We initially felt you should cut all ties if one of your children decided to be heir, but then we remembered what Lord Hiashi said about his daughters. That no matter what name they have, they will always be his children and a part of their lives. I'm guessing it's safe to assume you'll feel the same way about your children. Naruto nodded. Then yes, you'll still be allowed to see your children, even if they decide to become heir to the Hyuga clan, stated the main elder. Then I'd agree to your conditions, stated Naruto. It's settled then, said the main elder. For now, we won't make any demands for an heir to be named. Should your children inherit the Byakugan, they will become potential candidates for clan heir. When they become chunin, they will be informed they can take this path. Should one of them decide to become clan heir, on their 18th birthday they will be officially named heir. But should both your children decline the option of being clan heir, then it is Lord Hiashi's responsibility to name a new heir as soon as possible. This is a responsibility I accept, stated Lord Hiashi. Very good. Now, I think we can all agree this meeting is over, said the main elder as he and the other elders stood. We look forward to seeing what your children decide in the future. Without another word spoken, the Hyuga elders left. Well, I'm glad that's over, sighed Naruto. I hate having to be that formal. You did look very uncomfortable the whole time, laughed Hinata. I'm just glad we reached an agreement that everyone was satisfied with, sighed Hiashi. Now what do we do? Asked Hanabi. If you ask me, we should go celebrate, stated Naruto. Anyone up for ramen? Sounds good, I'm starting, said Hanabi. Are you sure you're not just having pregnancy cravings? Asked Naruto, remembering what Hinata was like. I don't care, I'm hungry and I want to eat, said Hanabi, getting impatient. Alright everyone, calm down. I think a good meal is what we all need after this drama, laughed Hinata. Would you like to join us, father? Maybe another time. I still have a lot to do, but I think you should all just enjoy yourselves, stated Hiashi. It's been a rough few weeks, let's just be thankful it's over. Well, the Hyuga clan might have backed down, but I don't think we can say the same for the rest of the village, stated Naruto, remembering the stares they got from other villagers after they had left home. Hanabi took his hand. Don't forget, Naruto, we agreed that as long as we have each other everything will be okay. I know, I just feel guilty that I'm putting you both through this, stated Naruto, hugging her. Hinata then came over and joined the hug. You don't have to, Naruto, we want to be with you and nothing is going to change that, said Hinata. Hiashi smiled. Although he didn't fully agree with the situation, he was just happy Naruto made his daughters happy. Life went on for the Uzumaki family. People still stated and whispered amongst themselves whenever they were seen in public. Hinata feared that some wanted to attack Hanabi. Thankfully none of them did, as they knew the repercussions from Naruto would be much worse. Furthermore, now that they knew the rumors of Naruto using the fox to make them his slaves were false, people started to believe the rumors of Hanabi's pregnancy were false. However, as the months passed and Hanabi's stomach grew, it became clear those rumors were true. Some theorized Hanabi had just agreed to be a surrogate for Naruto and Hinata, especially considering both would regularly place a hand on Hanabi's growing stomach. This was quickly proven false as they were often overheard referring to the child as Hanabi's. This destroyed any denial the villagers had about Naruto and his relationship with the sisters. This angered the majority of the village. While it was true that Naruto was the hero of the last war, how did that give him the right to take a second wife? It was not only extremely old-fashioned, but many found it disgusting and forbidden, which they felt painted their village in a bad light. What made matters worse was that Naruto was expected to be the next Hokage. How would it make the Leaf Village look if their leader was in a disgusting polygamous relationship? This was a question that eventually made its way to the village leaders and elders. One morning, Naruto was sleeping peacefully with his wives on either side of him, when they heard a knock on the door. All three of them awoke confused. They had nothing planned for the day and were aiming to sleep in. "Who do you think that is?" asked Hinata groggily. "I'll go check," yawned Naruto. Hinata got out of bed to make it easier for him to get out. "Okay, I'll make us some breakfast," yawned Hinata. "I'll give you a hand," said Hanabi struggling to sit up. Hinata walked over and put a hand on her shoulder. "You're not doing anything. We'll say it as many times as we have to, until the baby comes, we're going to pamper you." "We'll if you insist," laughed Hanabi. Naruto smiled at his wives before heading to the door. Naruto opened the door and was surprised to see Kakashi standing there. "Sensei, is something wrong?" asked Naruto. "Unfortunately, there is," sighed Kakashi. "The other village leaders have called for an emergency meeting, and they are requesting for you to be there," stated Kakashi. Naruto looked towards the kitchen where he could see Hinata preparing breakfast and Hanabi sat at the table. "Is this about?" "I'm afraid it is, Naruto. We thought the worst of this was over, but the worst is yet to come," interjected Kakashi. "Okay, well, I'll tell them we've been summoned and we'll get ready as quickly as possible." Despite the mask hiding most of his face, Naruto saw Kakashi's expression go sad. "As much as I'd like you all to be there, so you could support each other, the village leaders have stated that only you are to come," Kakashi clarified. "I'm sorry Naruto, but your wives are going to have to stay home." "But this concerns them as well," argued Naruto. "I agree. Unfortunately the concern of the village leaders is on the future of the Leaf Village, which they feel concerns you more than them," countered Kakashi. "Alright," conceded Naruto. "Can I at least say goodbye to them?" "Of course, just don't be long. We don't want to keep them waiting," stated Kakashi. Naruto nodded before heading back inside. He told Hinata and Hanabi what was happening and how he had to go with Kakashi to meet with the village leaders. Unsurprisingly, they wanted to go with him, but agreed to stay after hearing that only Naruto's presence was requested. Naruto got dressed, gave each wife a hug and kiss goodbye before heading off with Kakashi. As Naruto and Kakashi headed off into the distance, Hinata and Hanabi watched from the doorway worried about what was about to happen. Hanabi was particularly worried. "You don't think I've ruined Naruto's life and his dreams, do you?" asked Hanabi as she placed her hand on her stomach and started to cry. "Don't worry about that, Hanabi. As long as the three of us are together, we'll be fine," stated Hinata comfortingly as she hugged her younger sister. "I just hope Naruto feels the same way," thought Hinata. An unfair choice. As Naruto followed Kakashi to the Hokage office, he had a strong feeling that he was about to receive the worst news of his life. He just hoped that no matter what he was about to hear, the comfort of his new family would get him through it. As they entered the meeting room, Naruto was greeted by the other leaders of the Leaf Village, most of them looking very stern and angry. Both Naruto and Kakashi took a seat at the table. "Naruto, I'm sure you're aware why we called you in here today?" asked one of the leaders. I'm guessing it relates to my relationship with my wives, said Naruto. Correct. As you know, much of the village doesn't approve of you being with not only your wife but her sister as well, said the same leader. With all due respect, I view Hanabi as my wife as well, and I wish for you to refer to her as such, requested Naruto. It doesn't matter what you view her as, you are only legally married to Hinata, meaning none of us are obligated to refer to Hanabi as your wife, said another leader. I disagree, interjected Kakashi. Naruto showed us respect by coming today without argument. Because of this, I believe we show him the same respect by referring to both his partners as wives while he is in our presence. As you wish, Lord Sixth, said the first leader that spoke. Good. Now I think we should stop stalling and start discussing the real reason why we're here, requested Kakashi. The leaders nodded in agreement. Very well, said the first leader. Naruto, we acknowledge that life hasn't been easy for you. You were treated unfairly due to being the Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed fox. Nevertheless, you worked hard for the Leaf Village, and not only did you become a powerful ninja, but you became one that we are forever indebted to. Not just for your services to the village, but for your services to the entire world. Without you, none of us would be standing here today. That being said, just because we are forever indebted to you doesn't mean you are free to do whatever you want. Everyone has to face consequences for their actions, even war heroes. Taking on a second wife may have been acceptable in the past, especially given your accomplishments and the fact that you are the son of the fourth Hokage, said a different leader. However, it is now seen as an outdated practice that is only performed by tyrants who rule through fear and power. Because of this, most of us have decided that you taking on a second wife paints our village in a bad light. Especially considering you are expected to become the next Hokage. We feel it will lead outsiders to view us as a dictatorship, if our leader, who is also the strongest ninja in the world, has a harem. Because of this, we are giving you the following ultimatum. If you wish to continue your current path, you must end the relationship with one of your wives, said another leader. It doesn't matter which wife you choose, but if you still wish to become Hokage, we request that you only have one wife. Naruto's anger was growing, but he remained calm. And if I refuse? He asked. If you refuse, you will never be the Hokage, said the first leader. Naruto was shocked. They were forcing him to make an impossible choice. Either he give up on the dream he had worked his entire life for, or he end the relationship with one of the women he loved. We'll give you some time to think it over, but we expect your answer by the end of the week, said the same leader. Meeting adjourned. Naruto got up and left without saying anything else. He proceeded to wander around the village considering his options. The choice seemed impossible. How could he choose between his lifelong dream and the women he loved? Before Naruto knew it, he had wandered home. Naruto decided to be honest with his wives about what was going on. After entering, Hinata and Hanabi came to greet him. Naruto, is everything okay? Asked Hinata. No. Listen guys, we need to talk, said Naruto. They soon gathered in the living room where Naruto told them about the ultimatum he had been given by the village leaders. Unsurprisingly, the sisters were shocked, particularly Hanabi, whose worst fears had been confirmed. So you mean? Asked Hanabi. Yes, I have to leave one of you or I'll never be allowed to become Hokage, Naruto confirmed. How can they do that? After everything you did in the war, denying you your dream doesn't seem fair, stated Hinata. They feel me being both Hokage and in a polygamous marriage will give of the impression that we're an old-fashioned and tyrannical village, answered Naruto. But you didn't force us into this. We're the ones who chose to love you, stated Hinata. If anything, we forced you into this after I invited Hanabi to join our relationship. Unfortunately, they don't see it that way, said Naruto. Something tells me they want their next Hokage to be more modern and not someone who is in a polygamous relationship. They view it as a practice only performed by Tyants. Still, it feels wrong for them to punish you just because you have enough love in your heart to love two people, said Hinata. I agree, but I don't think there's anything I can do about it. I have a feeling they've made their decision and I can't force them to let me be Hokage, because then I will look like a tyrant, stated Naruto. Also, if I did that, I fear I'd no longer be the man you both fell in love with. Hinata took Naruto's hand. Naruto, no matter what you do, we'll always love you. Right, Hana? She trailed off when they saw tears streaming from Hanabi's eyes. Hanabi, what's wrong? Asked Naruto. This is all my fault, answered Hanabi. Hey, no, it's not, said Hinata. Yes, it is, yelled Hanabi. They were silent after this. Hinata was just glad Hanabi hadn't woken Boruto, who was currently napping. After taking a few deep breaths to calm down, Hanabi continued. I should have known this would happen. I should have known that if our relationship ever became public, it would ruin Naruto's life. Now, because of me, Naruto will never become Hokage. I only confessed because I didn't want to hurt you or Hinata, but now I've ruined everything. I should have kept my feelings to myself. Naruto got her to look at him. He wiped some of her tears before saying, What did I tell you before? This isn't your fault. Yes, you feel in love with me first, but after you joined our relationship, I soon fell in love with you as well. You can't blame yourself for this, when in the end it was I who decided to love two women. And you were very brave for coming forward and telling me the truth. This would have ruined the relationship between most sisters, but you told me anyway because you wanted to be honest, and I'm eternally grateful for that. I want my little sister to be happy, so I saw nothing wrong with sharing the man I love with her, stated Hinata. You even expressed that you feared I would hate you for this, but remember what I said the night you first joined us, I could never hate you. That's why I consider you the super sister, laughed Hanabi, wiping more tears from her eyes. Super sister. That has a nice ring to it, laughed Hinata. Their laughter was short-lived as Hanabi still felt guilt over the whole situation. But Naruto, how can you still love me now that I've destroyed your chances of becoming Hokage? Asked Hanabi. Naruto pulled her into a hug. We all have dreams and they are all equally important. When the news first came that this was hurting my chances of becoming Hokage, I asked you what your dream was. Do you remember what you said? Asked Naruto. For us to be one big happy family, answered Hanabi. That's right, and that dream is just as important as my own. And remember, I also said that's my dream now as well. You, me, Hinata, Boruto and our unborn child will all be one big happy family, declared Naruto. It was at this point that Naruto knew what he had to do. Better yet, he knew what he wanted to do. He let go of Hanabi and stood up. Stay here, I'll be back, said Naruto, heading for the door. Where are you going? Asked Hinata. They said I had a week to give them my decision, but I'm going to let them know I've already made my choice, answered Naruto. What are you going to tell them? Asked Hanabi. I think you already know, said Naruto, looking back and grinning. You're really going to give up being Hokage for us? Asked Hinata. I never said I had given up. This isn't the first time I was told I'd never be Hokage. I proved them wrong once, who's to say I can't do it again, answered Naruto, giving them a toothy grin and a thumbs up. Besides, it's just a position, there are people now that are more important to me. Both Hinata and Hanabi were touched by how much Naruto loved them, and they admired that he wasn't deterred by this. It could take many more years for him to become Hokage, so they admired that he was still determined to live his dream no matter what. Besides, this will give me more time with you and the kids, laughed Naruto before taking off to the Hokage office. Naruto wasted no time heading to Kakashi's office and walking through the door without knocking. Kakashi looked up from his paperwork, a little annoyed by Naruto's intrusion. Naruto, I know we go way back, but I'd prefer you at least knock before barging in, sighed Kakashi. I'm sorry, but this is important, said Naruto. Gather the leaders, I've made my decision. Unfortunately, I can't do that, Naruto. They have their own duties to fulfill and they won't be available until the end of the week, stated Kakashi. Why do you think they gave you the deadline? Naruto was annoyed but said, you know what, that's fine, I don't want to see them again anyway. Just let them know, I've made my choice and I'm staying with both my wives. Kakashi looked at Naruto seriously. Are you sure about this, Naruto? Remember, they said you will never be allowed to become Hokage if you decide to have two wives. We both know that's not the first time I've been told that, argued Naruto. I've proved them wrong before. Kakashi had a feeling he knew where this was going. And you want to prove them wrong again? Naruto nodded. You do realize, it could take years to change their minds, stated Kakashi. I don't care, I now have something more important to me than being Hokage, stated Naruto. A family. Despite a mask covering Kakashi's face, Naruto could tell that he was smiling. Very well, I'll let them know as soon as possible, stated Kakashi. And between the two of us, I think you made the right choice. Thanks, said Naruto. But before I go, I have another question. After the war, you said you wished to promote me to Jonin, but said I had to undertake leadership training first. Is there any chance we could speed that up, because we could use the extra money from the promotion? Kakashi laughed. Lucky for you, I looked into this after I received the news that you'd hurt your chances of becoming Hokage. Normally, you'd have to be promoted to Chunin before being allowed to become a Jonin. You mean I'll have to take the Chunin exams again, groaned Naruto. You didn't let me finish, stated Kakashi. Normally, you'd have to be promoted to Chunin first, but everyone including the other village leaders agree that it would be pointless for you to take the exams again, because your skill would far exceed that of the other applicants. Therefore, we've decided we can promote you without you retaking the exams. I also think you've done more than enough leadership training to warrant further promoting you to Jonin. So, you mean? Asked Naruto. Yes, because you currently can't become Hokage, I'm going to speed up your promotion to Jonin, Kakashi confirmed. Thank you, Kakashi-sensei, said Naruto. Don't worry about it, I too think the other villagers are being unfair about this, so I have no issue promoting you to a position no one can argue you don't deserve, stated Kakashi. Now look, I'd love to continue chatting, but I have a lot of work to do. Of course, see you later sensei, said Naruto, who then left. Naruto ran back to his home to tell his wives the good news. Well, asked Hinata as Naruto came through the door. I told Kakashi-sensei that I wasn't leaving either of you. He's agreed to pass my decision on to the other leaders, answered Naruto. Was he upset about your decision? Asked Hanabi. He reminded me of the consequences, but he also feels I made the right choice. He even felt putting my family first was the right choice, stated Naruto. But I've also got some good news. They gave Naruto their full attention. He's agreed to speed up my promotion to Jonin. And let's face it, that's a position I definitely deserve. Knowing this was big news, they both jumped forward and hugged him. Naruto, that's wonderful, cried Hinata. Yeah, we should do something to celebrate, said Hanabi. I'm glad you think so, because I know exactly what we should do, said Naruto, grabbing her intimately. Naruto, I don't think we should do that. We stopped having S*X when Hinata was pregnant, argued Hanabi, although she couldn't deny she also liked the sound of Naruto's plan. Yes, but I was a bit further along when we made that decision, said Hinata. Besides, after we went for your last checkup, I asked Sakura if it was safe for us to do so, said Naruto. She slapped me, but also said that would be fine. Well, if the doctors say it's okay, said Hanabi, holding Naruto in the same way. Care to join us, Hinata? Asked Naruto. Always, but I think I'll sit this one out. I think Hanabi needs to be reminded she hasn't ruined anything, said Hinata. Don't be silly, Hinata. We're all in this relationship and we're all partly to blame for our situation, said Hanabi, extending a hand to her. So, I think all of us should be allowed to celebrate tonight. Well, when you put it that way, conceded Hinata, taking Hanabi's hand. The three of them headed to their bedroom and shut the door behind them. While life was happy for the Uzumaki family, the prejudice of the village still remained. Even though both Naruto and Hinata saw Hanabi as Naruto's second wife, many still refused to acknowledge her as such. Whenever the three of them walked around the village together, many people stared at them with disgust, and they overheard whispers of them calling Hanabi Naruto's mistress, or his personal slew. They didn't mind, however, because they loved each other, and no matter what people said, they considered Hanabi Naruto's wife and there was nothing they could do about it. The villagers knew this, but they didn't like it, as they still believed it painted their village in a bad light. The prejudice only got worse as the months passed and Hanabi's stomach grew. This created more whispers, with many calling her child a disgusting bastard. Hanabi was just glad she usually went out with either Hinata or Naruto, because she didn't know if she would have been able to control herself without them. On the rare occasion that Hanabi did go out on her own, she did her best to ignore the judgment of the villagers, because she had her baby to think about and she didn't want to do anything that would cause them harm. The villagers also knew better than to harm Naruto's wives, because as the hero of the previous war and the strongest ninja in the Leaf Village, they knew doing something to provoke him would be unwise. Because of this, the villagers generally kept their distance and weren't open with their judgment, because they knew this was the best way to ensure their safety. 9 months passed and eventually Hanabi found herself in the hospital holding a beautiful baby girl in her arms. She had her mother's brown hair and white eyes, but had many features of Naruto, most noticeably a few of his trademark whiskers. Many people had come and gone to see the baby, but Naruto and Hinata hadn't left Hanabi's side since she gave birth. This baby was the newest member of their family, and they weren't going to leave Hanabi's side until she was ready to come home. And even though this baby was technically Hinata's stepdaughter, niece, Hinata had promised to love the girl as if she was her own. Hanabi had agreed to do the same for Hinata's son Boruto. Eventually the trio were greeted by one final visitor, as Hiashi entered the room. "Father?" asked Hanabi surprised. "Hello, Hanabi, are you doing well?" asked Hiashi. "Still a little tired, but I'm powering through," answered Hanabi. "I'm sorry I haven't been around much lately," stated Hiashi. "It's okay. We understand that the elders have been putting more pressure on you to commit to your clan duties," said Hanabi. Hiyashi's eyes focused on the child in Hanabi's arms. "Is that your child?" asked Hiashi. "Yes. Father, meet your granddaughter. Nitsuko," announced Hanabi. "Nitsuko Uzumaki?" questioned Hiashi. "Yes, father. I hope that's okay," stated Hanabi. "It is your right to give her whatever name you please, and honestly, I should not have expected anything else," admitted Hiashi. "Would you like to hold her?" offered Hanabi. "You trust me to hold her?" asked Hiashi. "Of course I do. After everything you did to help us with the elders, I don't believe you'll try to run off with my child," stated Hanabi. "That is correct. And despite the issues the three of you have caused for the Hyuga clan, I still wish to be a part of your lives, and nothing would make me happier than to be a part of my grandchildren's lives," admitted Hiashi. "And believe me, father, that would also make us happy," interjected Hinata. "Now, would you like to hold her?" offered Hanabi again. "I would love to," answered Hiashi. Hanabi placed the girl in her father's arms, and even the usually strict Hiashi couldn't help but smile upon holding his granddaughter for the first time. He'd had the same smile on his face when he first held Boruto. Despite the anger he had presented upon initially hearing the news of Hanabi's pregnancy, they had a feeling that Hiashi would be a loving grandfather to his grandchildren and would greatly soften as the years went on.